I run a company called Tin Smart Social, and it's actually a group of companies, and we are involved with sustainability across the UK predominantly at the moment. We're also very heavily involved in low carbon and decarbonisation of homes. So we've been working with in the West Midlands with the West Midlands Combined Authority and the Mayor and his team to look at how we can help people who are suffering from fuel poverty and digital poverty, and I suppose the effects of COVID in terms of the way they use their home. How can we help them to live a better life and have a more comfortable future? So the way we've chosen to do that is to start to work on developing energy efficiency products that can help with the air quality in a house, so in terms of the ventilation and the heating. So instead of people having to make the decision on whether they can eat or heat their home, we have started to look at whether is it a better way? Is there a better way to do that, and a more cost-effective way to do that? So we are very excited about this new journey for us. We've been working. We've been fortunate enough to be awarded some funding to develop some brand new products that are going to hopefully change the landscape in terms of what's going on with energy efficiency in people's homes. But what we're most excited about, and one of the reasons I agreed to, and was delighted to agree to be part of the Festival of Construction with Catherine, is that we really want to engage with young people, and various parts of our business do that already. We generally do that in terms of helping them to discover digital skills and their purpose for the future. But with this particular festival, we're really interested in starting a conversation with you as young people about what does the built environment look like, and how could we improve initially your home. So we're developing products around engaging with you, and how can we help you to measure the air quality and build using a Raspberry Pi and using technology. How could we help you to do things like measure the air quality in your home? We know that you're very, very good if you want something at talking to your parents and probably nagging them to do more and do better things. I know my children do that with me. And so we thought it would be a really, really good opportunity to start to work with you as young people to come up with some really fantastic ideas about how could we improve your home. How could we do that with technology, but also just how could we do that in terms of training or education, or just engaging your parents, engaging businesses around you that could help you to solve those problems. So we call that the Future Fix Challenge, and the Future Fix Challenge is really about engaging you in what we call bite-sized social action conversations in tribes. So we've got an aspiration to build 1,000 tribes. So that 1,000 tribes concept is about 1,000 different groups of young people who self-select either with their friends or with people who have a shared ambition to do something. And that something could be, as I said, it could be something to do with the home. It could be something to do with your community. It could be something to do with making the spaces that you live in or work in. And when I say work, in terms of school or any activity, even if you do, working part-time, but anything you're doing, all the spaces that you're in or the environments you're in, how can we help them to be better, to be more sustainable, to be greener, to have low carbon as a default position? And we need your voices, we need your energy, and of course, we want you to have a much more positive future than you have now. So the opportunity really is to engage with us. And we've got, as I said, 4 companies that one of them specifically, as I said, Midlands High Growth, which is specifically focused on energy efficiency. But the other 3 companies, Tin and DigiSheds and Own Label Creative, are all geared up to work with young people to help with their understanding digital and how that can help to improve the environment and everybody's future. So, as I said, I don't want to really show a presentation. I really wanted to use this opportunity, this platform, to start to engage you in a conversation with us through Catherine and through the Festival of Construction, as a catalyst, if you like, for starting that conversation. So I'm going to send through, and Catherine, I think, will share this, some details on our Future Fix Challenge and the 1,000 Tribes campaign that we're launching shortly. And we would really love for you as young people to get involved and to start to give us ideas on how can we improve things where you live, in terms of in your school. If your parents work in a company, how can we help them to improve the environment? Because this is going to be a collective mission for everybody. And I'm really excited about what Catherine's doing with the Festival of Construction. I hope you're really enjoying the day. You've had some fantastic speakers. Obviously, I'm delighted to be one of them. But this is a conversation that we want to start with you. And I wanted to kind of leave it there. So, Catherine.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. I know that some of our audience, where schools are dialing in with a group of students watching at the same time, it might take them a little while to get their questions together. So if you are putting your questions in, share them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and I will make sure to ask them of Alex. But in the meantime, I have got lots of questions that I am going to prompt for you. Okay. So obviously, you've got organisations in the business, and I know that you came in at the tail end of what Anne Rosenberg was talking about as sort of technology for good, and that opportunity to really use technology. You've got an organisation under your banner, under your umbrella of organisations that looks at technology and the DigiSheds thing. Do you see these two things linking together, or does it have to be children maybe who are not that drawn into technology for the community redevelopment?
So I think people say, it's a great question. People say to me, what is digital? And I always say, whatever the question is, the answer is digital. So the future is about digital. And what that means is not technology necessarily. So digital is just a way of visualizing the future in a way that isn't about necessarily the physical. It's about using any mechanism that you want to kind of create almost a copy of that in a digital way. So it is for everybody to get involved. So if you have an idea, the first thing we could do with digital technology is to come up with that idea and visualize it for you. It could be a film, it could be a piece of code, it could be anything. So it isn't about how you do it, and you don't need to be the person that does it. So you don't have to be a coder, you don't have to be a filmmaker, but you just have to have the idea. And that's what the Future Fix Challenge is about. And that's what I think this festival is about, is helping young people to kind of come up with the ideas and realize that those ideas are actually, we can visualize them with digital, we can engage people through digital mechanisms, through social media. And that all of that is digital. It's just a mindset and a behavior.
Very true, very true. One of our speakers earlier this morning was talking about, or they played a quote from a client about how sustainability generally is about creating ripples, because ripples create waves, and that's how you bring other people on board. Is that what you sort of envisage when you've got this community or home redevelopment? Do you see this as being something that grows and brings more people along with it?
Yes, absolutely, and massively so. We're looking at engaging households one at a time, and then in clusters in communities. So that growth is almost similar. There's an old movie called Pay It Forward, which is really about, once you understand and benefit from helping, being helped to have a better home or a better sense of well-being in your home. And you start to understand what's the possible out there, is to engage someone else in doing that. And clearly, if we do that and keep amplifying and multiplying that, the multiplying effect of that, to me, is what will transform the world, is what will make fuel poverty something that we just used to talk about, like the flu. Or hopefully COVID, it's something hopefully in the past. not something we have to look forward to in the future. So I really think that amplification, that multiplier effect of everybody getting involved and then engaging somebody else in that conversation and in the opportunity, I think is really the way forward.
One of the questions that I was sent from a school who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, but obviously are waiting to watch this video back and hear your answer, was how do they go about getting involved? Are there limitations on the number of people or the ways that schools can work with you?
Yes, another good question. There's no limitation. It is really about understanding the school. And Catherine, you and I have talked about, the brilliant job that teachers are doing, and how the pressures on them to obviously get through the curriculum, to get to a really positive destination for their students. But we are seeking to kind of lift that off the page and create some greater context and some greater employability messages, if you like, in terms of what that future could look like from a career point of view, or being an entrepreneur, setting up your own business, or just being an artist or gigging, if you like, in terms of what young people want to do. So the ways to engage is we have, as you mentioned, a program called DigiSheds, which is DigiShed, digisheds.co.uk. That program is probably the doorway into our world. We call it the doorway to difference. So that is how you engage with us. It's all over social media, and once you look at that website or look at what we're doing, just send us your ideas and we will then do the rest. We have what we call talent support officers. Every young person, we believe, is a talent, and we work to uncover and unlock that talent. So DigiSheds is what we use to engage, and the mechanism, and it's at scale. So it doesn't, we do it digitally. So there is no limit on numbers. And
not a geographic limit either, because I know you mentioned that you're in the West Midlands. Lovely,
no.
Lovely. So there you are, schools. Don't hold back just because you're not in the West Midlands. You mentioned earlier about fuel poverty, and I know some of the speakers at the festival yesterday touched on fuel poverty, but for any of the students who weren't here, what is fuel poverty? What does it mean? How do they know they're experiencing that?
Yeah, it's something I've come to probably talk about, and lots of people have, without, exactly as you mentioned, without understanding or explaining what it means. There are three dimensions to fuel poverty. It's your income in your home, what's coming in. It's the cost of utilities, so the cost of lighting, heating, water, and then it's the efficiency of your home. So if your home is using a lot of water, a lot of electricity, a lot of energy to heat it, to keep you warm, to run, that equation of all those three things equals. So when that happens and your income doesn't cover your utilities and your house is leaking a lot of energy, then that equals fuel poverty, which means that your income does not enable you, because of those other two things, to cover your costs. And so a lot of people are actually in fuel poverty, where they have to effectively, as I said, balance the question of, do I eat, and buy food, or do I spend money on heating my home? And so that eat or heat dimension is what a lot of people are experiencing right now. Digital poverty is something similar, where you are effectively saying, shall I buy data, or should I heat my home or eat? And that obviously is, all of that is wrapped into the home. So we see the home as healthcare now.
That's really interesting. When the festival opened on Monday, we were joined by the Right Honourable Justine Greening and Seema Kennedy from the Social Mobility Pledge. And the reason that they had come to be involved in this was obviously because they are heavily involved in social mobility. And home and climate and construction are all parts of actually creating a more inclusive society and levelling up. You and I have talked about this before, but for those people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Because you have come through the most amazing journey to be as passionate and committed to the things that you are. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, I suppose that is true in some ways in terms of the journey. My journey has been a bit odd. So I started off in my youth when I was born in Doncaster in Yorkshire. My dad was in the RAF. We travelled all over the world till I was about 9. We were backwards and forwards. I kind of had my first school in Singapore when I was 5. So I've got pictures of me in little short trousers, standing next to a coconut tree. Yeah, that was an interesting experience. I was on a base called Changi, which is a city in Singapore. And it's an RAF base, and I was at an RAF school, so everybody spoke English, but obviously it was very diverse. So that experience kind of stayed with me, if you like. And so when I came back to the UK when I was till I was 9, I was in Abingdon and near RAF bases, so quite remote places. But I really always understood that diversity kind of powered the world. And then when I was 9, we moved to Jamaica. So my dad moved there. He worked for an airline company, and we all moved till I was 13. Then we came back. So you'll see a pattern here that I've grown up living in lots of different places. So that actual mobility, as aligned to social mobility, was kind of built into me. And so when I left school, I unsurprisingly joined the RAF and did that for about 6 years. And when I came out, I realized, I was an engineer in the RAF, a telecoms engineer or satellite communications engineer, but I didn't really, and this is why I really appeal to young people who don't really think technology is for them. I didn't enjoy technology, but I did enjoy what it did, and the opportunities it opened. I don't love it in terms of, I'm not somebody who loves coding or sitting in a dark room kind of thinking about those things. I love the people who do, and I love what it can do for me. And what I've become very good at, I think, is explaining the possibilities of that and how it can manifest itself in your life. So for me, I then embarked on a really kind of, I suppose, a crazy career, which probably is quite similar to lots of people. So I left the Air Force, started working with an events company in the Daily Mail Group, which is a newspaper company. I then went on to work to live in America, to work for another publishing company in New York, came back and then started working for the BBC, and as a change and project management guy in terms of in HR and what they call BBC People. I then started working in local government. So I went, we're talking about 2001, 2002, so about 20 years ago. So at that time, lots of changes in terms of technology, lots of different things going on. And I started to get much more interested in working with schools and on social enterprises. So I started, as a reading mentor in different schools. I started getting much more involved in the community and doing different things. And so my background then accelerated, I suppose, when about 7 years ago, my final kind of stint was in Capgemini, where I was a senior director. I really enjoyed the role. I got to travel all over the world. Got to work with really big clients and companies on multi-million-pound projects, and it was that engagement that landed me in working with business in the community, which is one of Prince Charles's charities, a bit like Prince's Trust, but for business organisations, and it's a responsible business network. And I then was asked by Capgemini to go and look at a program called Business Connectors, which landed me then in London and in Lambeth, where I started working with young people. And I thought I understood what was going on, but in talking to them, I really started to understand the challenges that they have in their neighborhoods, the way their high streets changed, and in lots of ways has declined, the lack of green spaces, the lack of environments that are aligned and linked to them, the really big challenge of, the gap between what they're taught in school and then, getting a job. And my children are going through that now. Obviously COVID has exacerbated that with the strange, examination situation, and, the fact that you can't kind of celebrate with your friends, which I remember doing. So there's a really big challenge, and I think a really big challenge that businesses and organizations need to take care of. They need to really do more. And that's what I took up, So when I was in Lambeth, I then set up a DigiSheds, or a digital shed, in a job centre to help what they called the Tenacious 200, which was 240 people, young people, older people who had never worked, or some who had, been unemployed for 20 years. And we created a program that helped them to get their pride back and their confidence back initially, and then just took them on a journey. And that's what I've been doing for the last, 6 or 7 years, is helping young people and those people who are disadvantaged or furthest away to engage with the positive future. And I think digital unlocks that positive future. I think the new climate of construction and sustainability and low carbon and all that's going to mean, and space travel, all the exciting things now are really accessible. It is a really exciting landscape if you feel you have the confidence and you have the help and support to get onto that journey. And that's what I'm obsessed with right now. It's just, so my career has allowed, has opened many doors for me. People have, been pivotal in my life. And I'm building a team and a company and a set of companies that I want to help unlock the future for young people. And Catherine, obviously everything you're doing, and I love meeting people like you who are just transforming people's futures.
It's good to know that there's a very slightly different theme for today. If people have joined us earlier in the festival, you know that everybody who spoke started their talk by saying, Catherine strong-armed me into doing this. So it's very nice to hear people that are volunteering to be here. I've just had a question as an email, but if you have questions, please do put them in the Q&A. And obviously I can make sure that they get to Alex, even if we run out of time today. But the question that's just come to me on email was, what advice would you give to your younger self, or indeed, the advice that you're giving to your children now, for young people who are really facing a world of possibilities, but a world of uncertainty?
Yeah, really good question. I was actually talking about this with my son yesterday. I have a young son who's 15. He's just doing exams this year, and I have a daughter who's a year or so older. That's on the other end. She's just come out of school, and on that journey. The conversation I have with them is the world is your option. The world is about options. So you need to create options. So the opportunity in school to do what you need to do to get the best grades, to engage, that gives you options. And unfortunately, that is the way lots of people measure your future. But the advice I would give to my younger self is to not be afraid to try things, to not be afraid to, that is what's exciting. This I think school potentially and the way things are set up now does give you a sense that failure is bad, and failure is that's it. Once you've not done well in an exam, everything's over. For me, actually, that's just learning. That's just an opportunity to realize, hey, I didn't like that. So when you get out of school, it will be, I tried that, didn't like it. So I now know that about myself. And I was never afraid to try things. What I think I would say to my younger self now is try and learn quickly what you're serious about, what makes you happy. I've ended up in a happy place, but I think I would love to have done that earlier. And my children, I've given them the opportunity to choose something that makes them happy, because I can support them in that ambition. And I would absolutely dearly love for every young person on this, listening to this now, to think right now, what makes me happy? What do I love at school? What, if I go to that class, or I talk to that teacher, or I do that piece of work with, that delights me. What delights me? And let's turn that into a job or a career, because the future is about careers we're just making up now. We don't know what they're called. So the old careers that everybody else talks about, that used to be, the ones everybody was dazzled by and thought were great, the future doesn't represent those anymore.
No, absolutely, and I'm going to adopt Anne's statement from earlier of embracing your inner sci-fi, just imagining what could be the possibility in that. And it's so reassuring to hear you say that. For anyone who missed earlier in the week, we actually had a recruiter, a careers advisor, who was talking about what to put in a CV when you've got nothing to put in a CV, when you've literally just left education the day before. And some of the questions to him were about, what if I find a job and I realize I don't like it? And his advice was, that's okay. It's okay to want to change,
Right.
and know that about yourself. Did you, obviously you had career with a number of very established organizations, with sort of in the military, and then with big organizations like Capgemini. Did you have experiences where you found things and thought, oof, this is not the company for me?
Absolutely. You know, I'm not going to name names, but you know, there were companies that I joined that I realized probably almost immediately within the first week that the culture, or the, you know, the way they worked, or just how I was treated, was just not the right fit. And, you know, I do remember having conversations with my father, and who was, you know, always the person I went to kind of discuss those pivotal decisions. And he came from a, you know, a culture or a background where you didn't leave a job, especially if you were getting paid good money or a lot of money. I was really about purpose and about the culture of an organization. So for me, you know, and I would just leave. So, you know, he would say, well, make sure you have another job. And of course, if I'm saying to my younger self, I would definitely make sure I have another job before I leave. But sometimes I felt so, you know, so emotional about it, or so confident about it, I did just, you know, stop. So yes, I've had many reasons or situations where I felt I just could not work in an environment, or just didn't feel I could bring my best self to the day.
And I think with the recognition that we have now about the importance of mental health, knowing that you're not beholden to someone just because they're employing you, you are allowed to have an opinion on them too. And if it's not a good match, it's not a good match. Just as we come to the end here, could you give us another quick summary of, so for all of the schools and the students who are listening, how do they get involved with the work that you're doing? What are the steps that they need to go through? Where do they go? What websites? How do they come up with the ideas and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the first port of call, I think, is DigiSheds. So digisheds.co.uk, digital shed, sheds. It's all one word. The steps are, there's an opportunity to just click and send us a note. Once you send us that note, we effectively will just say, hi, yeah, what's your idea, or do you want to have a chat? And that conversation is really then about, what do you want to do? What are you excited about? What do you love? You'll notice there's a lack of jargon. I may have used some jargon here today, but it's really about just a quick conversation. And then we're just going to say yes. We're designed to say yes to whatever you want to do. If you want to start a business, and that's one of the things I would say, if you're worried about working for someone, work for yourself. Come up with a great idea. We've just launching a program called Championing Young Black Achievers and Young Business Achievers. So we're actually just looking for young people who have ideas and the motivation to start their own business, because that is the way to freedom of expression, freedom of financial freedom, and freedom of choice and options.
Brilliant, thank you. And in terms of funding and coming up with sort of financial support to back their ideas, is that something you can help them with? Is that something the school need to budget for and provide?
No, we do that. We just created the Tin Foundation, so I can, you know, we want to donate money to young people and to their ideas. So we're doing that through that function. But the company as well will invest, and there are lots of companies who want to give. Money isn't really a problem. It's if you've got a great concept, a great idea. You know, you've got Herman coming up. You know, he's absolutely, you know, the greatest advocate for that in terms of mentorship and everything that he's done. You know, but there are lots and lots of role models and examples of, you know, and people who want to give back, who want to support young people. So really, it's just that great idea and the passion and the mindset to get it done.